Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing? I'm back. I haven't gone too far, and I bet a lot of people are wondering, where did he go? What happened to him? And I took a much needed break, and I am really glad I did. I didn't realize 4 months ago, which was the last time I posted, that I would be taking such a long break. And, you know, it was really healthy for me. The internet is such a rigmarole, let's just call it. The internet is a mess, but it is still a place that we all convene. It's still a place that is the public arena, I guess, right? Yeah, the world is in such array right now. It's in such division. It's in such a mess. But yet, is it in such a mess? It's always been in this kind of state. This is one of the things, right? And in a lot of ways, what we are seeing with the other side, the anti-human, the anti-life, the globalist cult, the corrupt, ingrained people that are pushing these agendas, they're being caught. And this is why there's panic. This is why they're going into full gear. I mean, part of this whole plan had been to create this kind of division and this unrest all over the world in preparation and the lead up to the 2024 presidential election in the United States. Okay. And we see it. And then on the other side of the ocean in Europe, right, has a lot to do with this implementing of the EU's plan in concert with the globalist agenda in relation also to war efforts, but implementing their climate agenda. Now, Canada's kind of got a bit of both, best of both worlds, right? But what we have actually seen is that everything is sort of breaking down onto a local level. And that's where the battle is. That's where the fights are. And people have woken up, right? So like my last 4 months, it's been fun. A lot of ups and downs. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't the best winter, but I had a pretty good time. I've been working on a couple of different other things. One of them is kind of a cool music project, experimental music, film, meditation music, perhaps in the future. But yet, when we release this, which is going to be in the middle of this month and the beginning of June, I'll tell everybody. I'll definitely inform everybody. It's not for everybody, of course, just like how the tarot is. What's really interesting for me is that what I've noticed, especially in relation to all of the divisiveness in the world and how things have become super divided, that in some ways the dust has settled in such a way where, especially where I'm coming from, like more of a spiritual kind of angle, I guess, and not ideological per se, that starting to sort of fit back into the place where I'm used to, which is not sort of fitting into this side or that side or over here or over there, and being more of like a node and being more sort of central, I guess, or a little bit off of center, maybe. But it's just because I can see on both sides how they're being played. And the more extreme a person's view of their worldview becomes, it becomes easier. Now, people could say the same thing about me and about what I present in my worldview, right? I think what's more important is to be sort of grounded in a place of spiritual connection and truth, so that we are able to listen to that higher calling, that part of higher self, that part of true self that tells us when to proceed and when not to. And it does come from a spiritual source. It does come from what a lot of people in religion refer to as God. Everybody has different terminology, different names, different concepts. And you see, this is the angle that I'm sitting in, where in all world religions, I am considered a heretic because of the views that I hold. But yet, what I see from my angle and what tarot, astrology, numerology, and a component of the component of the Western school, how it talks about how it is all coming from that one source, and that all religions ultimately are talking of the same thing. It is one of the ancient secrets, the secrets of all the ages, okay? But yeah, it's not important. I'm not here to convert people or anything. It's more about bringing awareness. Now, the cards are amazing, and we know this about cards. This is why we are drawn to the cards. They show us so much. They guide us in so many different ways. How I see it is that they lead us to that central point that is ultimately the guide, okay? And they provide a little bit of a blueprint. They can actually tell us what's coming and what to avoid. But yet it's actually ultimately coming from source, right? Okay, so that aside, right? So like, yeah, the world in super division. The last time I did a reading, it was right around the time when all of this stuff in the Middle East was sort of breaking apart. Just to me, it was so obvious how these deep state elements, this cult, this intrusion upon the everyday state of affairs has their hands in all areas, okay? And it's this idea of the uniparty, you know, like how it doesn't matter if a lot of these politicians, same in Canada as in the States, whether they're left or right, a lot of the time they're sort of working towards the same thing. Same thing with all of these corporate entities, where they are all pushing the same agenda. So yeah, it's just become obvious, right? And that's the part of the wake-up call. And a lot of the whole censorship and everything that's been sort of taking place has a lot to do with right now. How I've seen it is that these groups, these elitist groups, have at one point in our recent history have coalesced to come together as a singularity to finalize a global agenda. And that global agenda has a lot to do with instilling a group in total control of a centralized system that spreads all over the world, okay? And there was a plan, and part of that was to goad us into crises and to have different crises come up that would act as cover and opportunity and an excuse to implement some of these ideas and a martial state, a control state, a state of total control, let's just say. Now, somewhere along the line, after the 2020 thing didn't really fully work out, they broke off, and this is where we start to see the BRICS group and the different groups in the world, and we're seeing this division. And so part of that plan was to implement some of these things. We were to be in a climate lockdown, some kind of climate crisis that was going to usher in a forever war state or this kind of idea, right? That didn't work, right? After the 2020, right? The other deal of it is like people like Trump in the States and stuff, and these populist movements all over the world pose a huge risk to these people, and they know it, and they've admitted it, that it's not working, that they're caught. Right? And so that's the funny thing. People need to pay attention to that, because the more they get caught in their crimes, the more things start to make sense. And in a lot of ways, the reason why the last 20 or 30 years in some things like geopolitically or with the economy and with certain policies and things, why they don't make sense to us is because they've been implemented in secret. They've been gaslighting us through the media, through the experts, through the schools, through our professionals. And literally, like these people have inserted themselves. So it's like, okay, I'm preaching to the choir right now, but there are going to be a few people that catch on to this stuff, like catch on to my channel and see this for the first time. And that's part of it. Having a clear sort of understanding, like what is the motive behind this agenda, right? And so if you look at what Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum, that's like a good example. But there's other things, like this has been going on for a very long time, since the 60s, since the end of World War II. JFK, let's say that's a really good point. This is a obvious point of this kind of a coup, of an elitist coup, of a deep state coup that's been taking place. Now, this isn't just in the States. This is all over the world, right? But we have people talking about it now. Yay. And was the whole point. This was the point of us on the other side, people that are drawn to the spiritual side and awareness. We were there to bring awareness to this. And so you can really see how that divide is real, where a lot of these people in positions of power and stuff that and are deciding policy are pushing another type of an agenda. And there might be a lot of reasons what those motives are for those people. There's a lot of different theories out there that have been present for a very long time, but it doesn't matter. We're seeing now their aims: attacking the family, attacking religion, attacking humanity, attacking the children, attacking our way of life, just on an everyday level, on everybody's doorstep. This should alarm people. It should wake people up, and it is, and it hasn't. I mean, I'm telling you, like 3 years ago, even like 3 years ago, I didn't hear people talk about the things that they're talking about now. Like I turn on the internet, I turn on a news thing, or I go on X or something, and I see a politician talking like how we're talking. And it's amazing. I mean, is it good? I mean, is all of the information reliable? This is what we're trying to find out. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to jump into a reading. We're going to do a zodiac read with the astrology, and I'm going to do a world read, but it's also going to be sort of like a personal reading. I'm going to throw in a little tidbits of what's going on in the world. And so what people can do too is you can take this whole spread as a reading for yourself, or you can just pay attention to what I say about your particular birth sign, your sun sign, when your birthday is. Go with what you feel and trust the intuition 100%. Okay, so everybody, I want you to focus at home. So over here on this side here, we've got Aries. Okay, this represents the cardinal fire sign. Okay, and this is like our individual expression and the will, and how our individual will actually works. Okay, individual expression and that flame of true self that exists within us. That's what that represents. Okay, and so sometimes, and like Aries can be a very creative sign. It could also be a very forceful sign. It's very active, right? So this is our first sign in the chart, and sort of indicates, right, like what is activating our will, what's giving us that inspiration to go out and express our divine selves, our true selves, right? And a lot of people are feeling stifled. The world is feeling stifled. In fact, that is the aim of the cultists, of the anti-life cultists, that they want us to feel stifled. They want us to feel unmotivated. Okay? That we don't have a life purpose, that our lives are not worth living. And that's not true. The Knight of Cups represents that impulse, that impulse from the heart, that calling, that sense of self, that the spiritual part of that feeling of our true selves, right? And so when it's reversed, there's a stifle. And this can also be a lot of falsehoods, right? So it's like working through a lot of falsehoods in the sort of Aries department. Honestly, that has been sort of the last few months for me, because it's been tough. It's been tough to feel motivated. Every step that I take over here or over there, there's falsity, and there is corruption, and there is the not truth of reality. Yeah, so interesting, right? So when you look at these, the thing to do is to look at the card be opposite. And that's kind of how astrology works. So opposite of Aries is Libra. Okay, so what we've got on the other side of it is actually from sort of the Librans, like from Libra, from the side of opposite of Aries ruled by Mars, which Libra is ruled by Venus, right? But the thing is what we got to draw from is people of like mind. That's what the Four of Wands really sort of represents, is seeing eye to eye, or having people of similar thought, similar feelings, similar thoughts, similar worldview. And that's where you got to draw from. Drawing from, you know, family members that you feel comfortable with, and partners and friends and things like this, but yet not to get discouraged of how the world isn't sort of giving you free passage, isn't, well, giving you open passage, right? It's making it difficult for you to sort of follow your path. It's on purpose right now. They don't want us as individuals pursuing our individual path. I mean, too, it's like this stifling of the creative impulse. You know, it's like feeling no inspiration. Like, why should I? Why would I? Why bother? Well, little by little, if you kind of begin or you start, then it does get a little bit better, and it gets a little bit easier, and you become unstuck, right? So that's really a card of feeling stuck. With the two, right? So the Two of Swords in here really, because this kind of tells us how everything else is being read, right? That in some ways, like where you want to move forward with this Aries impulse, maybe you need to sit and wait. Maybe you need to sort of like really check in, is this the right direction? It's a wait and see kind of thing, right? In order for lies and corruption and things that aren't truthful to be cleared up, things need to be brought out to light, and it has to settle, right? And this is what this maybe really even talks about. But right now, what we're being sort of prepared, and I guess this is why I felt necessary to start doing readings again, was because we're being prepared for the next step, right? Especially as peacekeepers, as people that bring things down to the surface, right? This card, the Two of Swords, is kind of a really interesting card, right? Because it could be taken in a lot of different ways. Like it could be a card of like too much fear, and so you do need to sort of engage in a practice to eliminate that fear. Some kind of exercise, some kind of spiritual exercise that does require physical positioning, movement, but also meditation, right? And sort of getting in touch with the emotional nature, which is the Moon and the water here, right? So, but she's a warrior. This is a war, like, especially in the medieval sort of sense of this, is, we have to take her as such because she's holding swords. And she's holding swords in such a way that, you know, it's not a common thing, right? So this is a practice that it's kind of like her Jedi practice or her spiritual warrior practice, right? And so this is kind of a big part of it. We have to see the untruth in the world right now, okay? So Taurus. So the Taurus, so we're in a Taurian age, and Taurian time, month of Taurus, right? And that's kind of what I thought was good to do the readings, because it's, you know, I'm shooting this on May Day, which is Beltane for the ancient world, the pagan world. What's interesting is that in the house of Taurus, we've got some very Taurian cards. We've got this, actually, one of the signs that could represent the Queen of Pentacles is Taurus, okay? And so this is actually a really good sign. Sort of in spite of what they keep saying about the economy and about sort of like the physical world, none of what they actually are saying is manifesting. This is what we really actually need to see. So are we going to keep focused on what these experts, what these groups, what I've been talking about, what they're saying about things that sort of sit above our heads in some ways, or are we going to kind of continue to intend and to act on something that is different? Okay. So intending something different, sort of setting out. This card too represents really like sort of trusting your own faculties, trusting your own intuition, and nurturing your environment, nurturing what is in your environment. Okay. Get down with what you really value in this world. Really express it. It's time to express those things. These things could become activated, right? We have to sort of develop different ways of creating sort of our worlds, right? Which has been part of the process the whole time. Sometimes we do need to sort of sit with ourselves. We really do have to sit with ourselves in order to understand like I was saying, like, what do we truly value? What is it that we are really sort of aiming for in our world? Okay. The Four of Pentacles, that's opposite of the Taurus, because that's Scorpio. It's like we put out that energy, we ask for an answer, and it is coming to us. We have to be open to it though. This is what the Four of Pentacles actually, especially reversed, talks about more. It's being open. Okay, so here we are in Gemini. Gemini ruled by Mercury. Okay, and now we got that Eight of Swords. Now Mercury represents the mind, not the higher mind, the lower mind. And it also represents the communication factor, the ability to communicate and to connect and to network. This is our close relations. This has a lot to do with moving in our world though, right? And so it's a lot of us are feeling stuck. They're feeling stifled by what the impulse of the world is sort of presenting. And we have to take charge of our own lives in some ways. We have to assume a responsibility for what it is that we see as our circumstance. It's between you and the universe, and that's it. And so in order for that movement to happen, because the Eight of Swords, like she's stuck behind this, or she's seemingly stuck behind this fence of swords. And in fact, traditionally, they talk about how she's escaped, but yet she hasn't quite fully made it yet. Okay. So a lot of her concerns, what's holding her back, is of the mind. It is of the thoughts that she's holding. And that's the thing, is that blindfold, just like this blindfold here, right? In the Two of Swords, can be easily taken off, and that's what the practice is. So we haven't come full way yet. We're fleeing. This is like the globalist, one world government, totalitarian control structure, this castle, and we're the woman. And so we've made the break. We've broken out, but we're still caught up, like in the Eight of Swords, the fog of war, the fog of information, the fog of the BS and the lies and the things that are being pushed. And, it's like the only way to sort of access that is through the true self, is the inner workings and our connection to source through that. Okay. Super important, right? That's where there is opportunity for us to sort of step into new forms, new places in our world, right? New jobs, new situations, but yet we have to make that leap. We have to sort of recognize that what is holding us back a lot of the time is the mind. It has much to do with the mind, right? The thing with Gemini is they definitely need, the Gemini needs something like an Aries or, something that's more directive. Okay. Because Gemini tends to be caught on both sides. Classic Gemini is sort of want to keep things light and don't want to take anything serious, right? And I think that impulse is very strong in the world. You see that with many generation. It's not a generational thing. It's all along the board. It's part of Western culture. People haven't wanted to look at the deeper side of things. They don't want to look at how you've been politicized, how you've been weaponized, how you've been utilized and used as pawns. This is I mean, this is the part of that impulse. It's for the Geminian part of us to recognize, like, yes, it's okay to take a deeper look. We also need to keep light, but we also have to take a look at this stuff. It's very important. Okay, moving on to Cancer. In Cancer, we've got the reversed Seven of Pentacles, which is, oh man, that's so funny. It's like, because this card, the card itself is already sort of presenting this, it's necessary to wait. It's necessary to sort of engage. Like the patience value is very important. I mean, have you pruned your garden? Have you taken away the things that no longer serve you, right? Especially like with Cancer ruled by the moon. It's the directive sign of water, right? So it's this feeling, and it has a lot to do with, like, you know, there's a balance. There's got to be a balance between self-nurturance and nurturing others. Okay. Are you looking after yourself? Are you too busy looking after other people? There has to be a balance. Has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. Are you wasting time on things that no longer serve you? That's a big part of it, right? Because you might come to see when it comes time for harvest that your crop isn't that full. And you should have taken the time 6 months, 7 months previous to prune it properly, right? That's what this card talks about. It's a vineyard, right? But it's more like, you know, like 7 represents like taking a step back in some ways. It's thought, right? And the physical form. This is your physical world. Is money all that important? Is it all important? Is it the thing that we aim our entire life towards? No, it's not. But a lot of people have to answer that question for themselves. Our past might be what gets in the way with this. And a part of this feeling that isn't allowing you to look at things from sort of like that balanced point of view might be hang-ups from the past, pain from the past, okay? Past relationship pain. Remember, Cancer ruled by the moon, very intuitive, very, it's the mysterious side of life. Sometimes the answers to some of those questions, they are presented mysteriously. And it is a mystery. I'm not always sure how things turn out, right? Okay, so next one is Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun, the generator of life, the thing that gives us inspiration, that gives us life, that is the impulse, okay? Now, Leo is funny. Leo can also be a very sort of negative sign with the lion, it devouring everything and ripping everything apart, right? But it sort of has a lot to do with those passions. This is sort of indicating, especially for Leos out there, is like relying on other people too much. This is looking for support that isn't there, right? And and a lot of the time that's what it is. A lot of people that are out seeking support from others, how supporting are you as well, right? Like it kind of goes both ways. And I mean, I get it. Not everybody is meant to be doing everything on their own and, you know, like things like this. But yet what the cards always talk about is restoring that balance. We need to be interdependent as well as independent. It isn't just us as individuals on the planet. It's also us as individuals in groups. All right. So it's like looking for that support system, not sort of moving ahead because that support isn't there and you have to sort of set it up for yourself. This is also the sort of a sign of you might be holding back starting something. And so you got to take the first step. You have to lay out the first poles that set up the foundation, or things are shifting so much that not everybody in your group, in your community is there as part, like, to be connected. Like you're going to see people come and go, right? And so it's almost like finding new support systems, new ways, new people that are supportive. You know, I get it. It's hard to sort of, to continue on when you don't feel supported. Okay. But sometimes that challenge is there so that we do find where true support lies, because often we do have to learn this lesson of first supporting ourselves or the individual, right? It's tough, man. It's tough. And right now we do. And that's the other thing too. The other actually thing I want to add to that is that if you are in this situation where you have to seek support from other people, then that's fine. That might be part of it too. You might be beating yourself up. I wish I was more independent. Well, honor the support that is there, because some of this stuff you can't do on your own. It has to be done through this support, right? And maybe that's part of it, is you want to become more independent. I'm not sure, right? It's about balance. Restore balance. Don't flip from one side to the other. Come to the center with these things. Okay, so Virgo. Everything Virgo. Virgo ruled by Gemini again. Except this is more on the physical part of it, right? And does represent an aspect of our body. It represents our physical health. It also represents how do we serve? How do we serve the world, right? And many of us are going through a massive changes, like physically. Man, some people are going through health issues like crazy. Some people are restoring their health. Okay. And that's a really big thing right now in the world. Man, look at this. Right across from it, we've got the Death card and the Judgment card, and they're both major arcana cards, right? And so this transcendence that the world is going through, the death of one world and the beginning and the birth of a new one, is really kind of what this Judgment, and the Judgment card represents like the penultimate state before things fully change over. So it's the just before, the preparation of, okay? It's like the revitalizing of our spiritual sort of nature. That is sort of a key to restoring health, okay? And that in many ways, and some people are feeling it, like they really want some of these things to change. Like they want the second coming to happen. They want like Ragnarok and, like what the Judgment card, the book of Revelation and stuff represents. Okay. And that's the thing. It's like not up to us to decide when that happens. Metaphysically and symbolically, we go through that process. Sometimes it's monthly, where we go through this regeneration, rebirth, right? Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's moment to moment. It's not based on a particular cycle in time. But that's kind of what it is. It's like looking for that revitalization. So funny, the card Judgment. Okay. So like in the Book of the Dead and the passing of the soul, like the weighing of the soul, coming to terms with what we have done in life. But yet on the earth plane, in the everyday moment, that judgment, there's a difference between judgment and discernment. Okay. And the judgment of the mind is what might be preventing you from the true revitalization that you're looking for. The judgment, holding judgment about the way the world and how things are, might be what is causing the illness. I'm not sure, right? But it needs to be sort of brought to terms, okay? Libra, ruled by Venus, okay? And seeking peace, okay? Especially with the Four of Wands in the place of Libra with this here. It's like, yeah, we're like seeking peace with people, finding accord with people, finding the people that you actually see similar viewpoints with. This is very important. It's that feeling, right? That's what's being drawn to us. We need peace. Grows from within us, and it grows within our one-on-one connections, and it grows within our family, and it grows within our community, and it grows within our nations, and it grows within the world, and it grows within the universe. Okay. And that's how it works, but it starts within us. Okay. This is a card of also like seeing the other person's perspective and finding sort of like answers there. Communication, diplomacy, and peace is what rules Libra. Okay. And that Venus impulse of the appreciation value and the sort of the inward flow, the inward energetic part of the exchange, the outward and the inward, right? And the ability to see from, or the ability to perceive from that place is what Venus really represents, okay? This is where we get the idea of our sense of beauty and sense of value, right? And it's not just about love, even though that's a part of it, right? This is the other part of the Libra vibe, okay? And just, getting out to meet people. Sticking with, it's like what I'm saying. It's like finding a chord with people that you already see eye to eye with, but yet you also kind of have to take that sort of same vibration and bring it out to the world so that you can meet maybe new people, right? I'm not sure. Okay, so moving on to that is Scorpio. Scorpio co-ruled by Mars and Pluto. Now, Libra was an air sign, and that's it's cardinal air sign. Scorpio is the fixed water sign, so it represents the fixed nature of water, the structure of water, okay? Often Scorpio too represents our one-on-one partnerships, that kind of relationship, the power dynamic between two bodies, two situations, two people, okay? It also represents like occult knowledge or hidden knowledge and the mysteries, right? So with this, it's like this sign of being open to new partnerships, being open to sort of new ideas, right? That's really what is the key. And your intuition is what's guiding you towards that. So it's like, pay attention to the intuition when this is coming up. People that are in partnerships might find things ease up a little bit, or if there's been issues, there might be some resolutions to some of this stuff. This often money gets in the way with marriages and things like this, but this is kind of like the thing of like, oh, our world is opening up. Oh, right. So, and that's a real positive thing. Super good. Pluto is the planet of transformation, and it has to be taken in such a way where that transformation ultimately is for the best. It's for our ultimate good, right? And it, in a way, Pluto is kind of like the death card, where not only represents actual physical death, but it represents the spiritual death or the transcendence that happens in life, that is necessary. Yeah, impulses, feeling really paying attention to what comes up in the intuition. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the signs that you're given in your physical world. Okay, that's a big one for the Scorpios out there. And then that leads us to Sagittarius, where the Ace of Pentacles is presenting for the Sagittarians, for the Sagittarius aspect. Now, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. It is the mutable fire sign. So it's that the fire of spirit, the fire of our will, moving in every direction. And in fact, it moves in every direction. It leads us to the higher mind, to the higher philosophies. Represents institutions as well, but it also represents travel, right? And it's a card of movement, but the movement comes from the sort of the spiritual side, okay, from the higher aspects, right? And so there are being opportunities presented to get you out of the jam that you're in. You just have to be present enough to see them, okay? Present in your mind. Clear your mind of these things, like you got to pay attention to the language that you're speaking, to yourself. You might be telling yourself you can't do it. You might be telling the world the opposite of what you want, because that opportunity that you're looking to sort of, that next step is right there. But it really requires you to sort of take off the blindfold that is blinding you. You have put that blindfold there as a way of protecting yourself. But you don't see the good parts of the world now. You've blinded yourself to all aspects of the world. Now, This is symbolic, right? It's not to be taken literally per se, right? But yet that opportunity is there, right? It's being presented, and that's Jupiter. That's really expansive. That could come in a way that you're not expecting. And so Capricorn, got the 10th house here. Capricorn ruled by Saturn. Saturn, like Jupiter, an outer planet, they work really good together, except Saturn represents constriction, whereas Jupiter is expansive. Saturn is the constriction of things, right? It's where we focus. It's what we need to be taught, right? What we're teaching others, maybe. Where we need to focus, and where we need to focus, especially in the 10th house, with this Capricorn. Capricorn is direction. It's the structure of our physical world. And it has a lot to do with like the path that we seek in our world, right? And so, man, a lot of people use their past as an excuse why they're not living the path that they think that they should be living or wanting to be living, right? And it's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of time to dwell on the past, to continue to dwell on the past. It's not going to be rectified. Things aren't going to be fixed if you continue to dwell, right? you got to remind yourself of that. Often when people feel like they're being held back and they make a forward motion, they realize that had a lot to do with that there was a fear of something that had happened in their past, in the sense of, oh my God, I don't want that to happen again, right? And it's this thing of humanity either projecting itself into the future or constantly focused on the past, but not being present. And that really is the key to sort of this motion. Career change, right? Career, what does that mean? What does it mean? I guess that maybe is the answer, because a lot of us are hung up on that, and you bought into something that may not have been fully true. Okay. And we're seeing it. We're seeing parts of it fall apart right now. And that's reality, right? But it's more, and it's like this thing of like, oh, well, I entered into this career path because of this circumstance in my life, but now I don't want to be in this. I mean, that's really up to you. You shouldn't allow the past to hamper that, right? Okay, moving on to Aquarius, ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Now, Saturn being the planet of constriction, like we were talking about, but the teacher and the revolutionary, the reformer, the one that is here, which is what the Uranus energy represents, right? It represents knowledge. It also represents our friend groups, how we collect information, how we gather that knowledge, right? But it's through communities and groups, right? And it's like, in some ways, maybe what's happening is we're isolating ourselves. We're trying to protect ourselves from what we see as the way of the world right now. And that isn't necessarily the best way to go about it, right? There might be too much of a need to protect, right? It's also been necessary to sort of buffet yourself against what's sort of taking place, right? Finding support in funny places, finding support where you would least expect it. This is kind of like a world-weary card, 9 of Wands. Okay, so 9 is that number of cycles, right? So are we finding ourselves in the same kind of milieus, the same groups of people? It has a lot to do with like our intent, our energy, what we're bringing forth, right? Like if we're worried about protecting ourselves from the world all the time, then that's what we'll find, right? I know that there's a need to do that, but to overly do it is sort of a thing, right? Like having trust and confidence in your own experience, your own skills, your own talents, your own gifts, and sharing that with people. That's also how I see that card, right? Some resolutions coming within friends. This thing of being divided is kind of coming to an end, eh? right? This is not people's natural sort of proclivity, and this is not a part of that awakening energy that we've been going through. That awakening energy has been, has a lot to do with bringing unity, right? Like unity is such a key part to everything that we're doing. Yeah. So that's important, right? And it's like building on. This is also a thing of like building on to what we've already established. So be wary of this, the expression, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what we got to be wary of, that, especially in groups of people or institutions, schools, this kind of thing, right? It's like revisionist thinking, right? This is what this kind of represents. And so, and the last of it would be Pisces. And Pisces, ruled by not only Jupiter, but also Neptune, represents our spiritual drive, or represents what we are here spiritually releasing. What do we spiritually serve, right? That's a big part of it. And so for people, like, they are going through a spiritual awakening right now. They're trying to find what is their spiritual root? What is their spiritual foundations? They're seeking that sort of thing that has been missing for so long in our material world. Go take part in those things that you've always kind of wanted to. Go and seek those things out. It's sort of time for that, right? We are going through a massive, massive shift. I really do believe that, we've chosen to be in this time period, and it has a lot to do with a quickening of events, quickening of our spiritual development, and the releasing of past life karma and what we have lived through in other lifetimes. Okay. So that we can approach that doorway when it comes time for us to leave the earth plane. We do it in a manner that is freeing and isn't binding. I think what we're going to see too in the world is there's going to be there's going to be two factors. There's going to be one impulse towards war and the continuing of division, and then a greater impulse towards peace. I'm talking on smaller scales too, like we're finding it in our world, right? I really do believe that peace grows from within us and it grows outward, right? And so that's like a big impulse. People they're sick of it. They want to see it sort of resolved. No matter how big or small, often it's the small things that have the biggest effects, right? And when I'm talking about some of the changes here, I'm talking about in our worlds. The small things in our worlds, that's what affects a greater change. Okay, thank you everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. So leave a comment, press the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.